Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Let's talk about self-sabotage, and specifically the version of self-sabotage that involves perfectionism. And I'll put it really bluntly, this episode is perfect for you if you're using perfectionism to sabotage your career transition and yourself. And what I mean by this is that this particular episode is dedicated to you and helpful for you if you are finding that your perfectionism and its accompanying high standards are getting in the way of your career transition rather than actually helping it. All right. So it's for you if you still haven't changed careers, you still haven't changed jobs, and you still haven't started that business because you're still waiting for that perfect business idea or perfect career or perfect passion to somehow materialize, somehow turn up, fully formed and matching all of your perfect high standard criteria. Because if not, why bother, right? And then, of course, you're likely also waiting for all of these external factors to be perfect as well. Must be the perfect time, the perfect conditions. Let's throw in a bit of control, perfect world control freakery too, shall we? We must have, you might feel like you must have all your ducks in a perfect row before you start taking any action. If you can relate to what I'm talking about here, is it any wonder if you're stuck in a holding pattern when it comes to your dreams? Like I love to say in this podcast, welcome home. I've got you. I see you and I can help. Now, what I also will say, if you're finding that your version of perfectionism is not a hindrance or not a problem for you, good for you. Then don't worry. This is not the episode for you. This episode is for those of you who are finding that your perfectionism is hindering rather than helping your transition. You literally have what I call toxic perfectionism, right? And here's the thing, a massive part of a successful career transition is being highly aware and noticing when you're self-sabotaging, and then also knowing what strategies to apply instead, the antidotes. So many of the emails I'm getting from you, the listener, and so many of my clients, a lot of the questions and scenarios, the real issue when it comes down to it is self-sabotage, right? Literally, I call it the holy trinity of self-sabotage. It's perfectionism, it's problem focus, and it's fear of failure. That's what so many things come down to. And in this particular episode, I want to focus on the toxic perfectionism. We'll take the other ones over time. And it's really, really important to talk about what to do about toxic perfectionism, as it's not just going to be an issue for a short time as you first start to change. It's also going to be an issue over time as you settle into your career transition. And especially if you've always been an employee and you're considering starting your own company, then it's really something you're going to have to learn to handle effectively, and you're going to have to find better coping mechanisms and better strategies to replace it with. Now, I care so much about talking about the subject. Why? Well, because here is something I've consistently noticed as a professional career change advisor, as an entrepreneur with over 17, that's 17 by the way, over 17 years experience of working closely with and advising clients just like you. Here's the thing, and listen carefully. People who insist on toxic perfectionism and its impossibly high standards, they rarely end up changing careers or starting their own business. Because being perfect for them is more important than doing what it really takes to change careers or start that business. Here's the thing. Career transitions can be messy and confidence-sucking, as well as also at the same time necessary and empowering. But what they can never be is they can never be perfect, according to the standards that perfectionists live in, because we live in an imperfect world. with a lot of moving targets and highly inconvenient events that are increasingly turning perfection and high standards into a pipe dream. And that's just going to be more and more the case as the changes in the world, they speed up and uncertainty is a new norm. So someone who spends a lot of time researching the future at work, let me tell you, perfectionism is not required. Perfectionism is not a key future-proofing skill, nor is it helpful. Adaptation is. So just know that. It's really, really important to be aware of this. So therefore, in this episode, what I really want to do, I really want to encourage you to take a more honest look at your own perfectionism tendencies and to really start noticing all of the ways in which you personally might use it to sabotage your career change, your business. And also, here's the thing, being a perfectionist, it takes an awful lot of time and energy. And I bet you could do it taking both of those things back right now. We could all do with more time and energy right now, right? So this is the thing. Once you're aware of that, you can start changing it. And in this episode, I also want to give you some really concrete tools and strategy for what to replace perfectionism with and how to handle it effectively, because it will not go away overnight. You train for a long time. So I'll teach you some of the most powerful strategies I've used with my own clients over the years to make sure they do change careers, they do start that business. And like I said, perfectionism is really part of that holy trinity of self-sabotage, perfectionism, problem focus, fear of failure that can stand between you and you successfully changing careers. So it's vital, absolutely vital, that you learn how to handle this. You know, it can be so easy when you talk about career change or business and entrepreneurship. It can be so easy just to be episodes about fluffy things, but that's not what I'm about. I'm here to help you. I know what's going through your mind at 3 a.m. in the morning or 9 p.m. on a Sunday night. I want to focus on the real issues as well to really help you properly. Okay. Now, I could literally do a year's worth of episodes on self-sabotage and perfectionism, but in this particular episode, I just want to focus on perfectionism. And what we'll do in this episode, we'll talk about, the toxic perfectionism. And what I want to do is to talk about the 3 ways in which this toxic perfectionism, it plays itself out in the most damaging way. So you can catch yourself when you do it. And then secondly, we move in, once we've done that, into the antidotes, what to replace those perfectionist tendencies with. All right. The antidote. All right. So point number 1 I want to make, because this might not be something you think about, is that your career transition requires and rewards very different qualities from the ones you're likely using or being rewarded for in your job or your career right now or so far. Let me say that again. Your career transition will require and rewards very different qualities from the ones you're likely using or being rewarded for in your job right now or your career so far. So a lot of my clients, they come from or they work in professional environments where perfectionism or impossibly high standards, they're kind of expected, they're lauded, they're even used to control and manipulate people. So they're just used to perfectionism kind of being the standard, the requirement. And sometimes they even themselves believe that their perfectionism and high standard has been kind of part or parcel of their professional reputation and their history. They're kind of proud of being a perfectionist. However, when it comes to for you, new territory of career transition or of entrepreneurship, those are not the most important qualities you'll need, nor are they even required. Perfectionism is way, way, way down the list. It's not even a must-have. Let me repeat that. Perfectionism is not a requirement for a successful career change or business. Conversely, if it's toxic, it can be a showstopper. So that's very likely very different from how you think about it now, especially if you're a lawyer or somebody who works in finance or any other sort of IT or professional capacity. So what I want you to think about that when it comes to career transitions, perfectionism, think of it like a side dish or like the spice that it's sort of like, it is not the main course. It's not the most important thing to think about. Not everything has to be perfect, nor could it be. So you want to choose very, very wisely the few times you actually apply your perfectionism. As a matter of fact, here's the thing. You might as well know this up front. Perfectionism is literally impossible to reach in your career transition, especially early on, initially and in the short term when it comes to moving into a new career or new business, because you'll be doing things you've never done before, exposing yourself to new ways of working, new groups of people, new industries, potentially new subjects. And that means that it is going to be impossible for you to do this if you insist on these high standards and perfectionism. It's also going to be a lot harder for you. So just know you're going to have to view the role of perfectionism very, very differently. It is literally just like a pinch of salt that you might put in every once in a while, but stop insisting on it for everything. It is going to sabotage everything. So it might be, like I say, that's what you are used to is being the standard now. That's not what it's going to be like when you go into the career change territory. Okay. Point number two, watch out for the prince on the white horse version of perfectionism. Or I call this the prince on the white horse fallacy. And I really want to highlight this and for you to be aware of the version of perfectionism that I call the prince or princess on the white horse version. And this is a version that you're falling for, a fallacy you're falling for right now if you are still waiting for the perfect career or perfect business idea or perfect passion to show out of nowhere or to somehow find it. And it's going to be fully fledged and ticking all of the boxes that you must have if you are to leave your well-paid, cushy, if boring job behind. Right? I cannot tell you how many smart people I come across who are falling for this fallacy and you know, of having, they need to find something that ticks all the boxes. If not, they're not going to move. And hence, guess what? You're still stuck in jobs or careers that you hate. Okay? Because you're secretly hoping for that perfect guy or perfect girl, the perfect career or the perfect business idea or the perfect passion to somehow show up out of nowhere and land perfectly formed in your lap or to somehow find it. And if you also have a tendency to talk yourself out of even your best career change or business idea, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Nothing seems good enough for you. The bar set so damn high. I have literally lost track of the emails that I get where people are like, hey, Rikke, I hate my job, I hate my career, I hate my boss, but I still haven't found the right thing. Do you see? Maybe you're falling for this one too. And what a perfect excuse, right? And also slightly lazy. You just need to wait and see. How is that working for you, right? The definition of perfectionism is literally a disposition to regard anything short of perfection as unacceptable. Talk about prince or princess and the white horse, right? Now, if that's you, then the default is likely that you're still waiting. Okay? Now, here's the third point I want to make for you to be aware of how this might be playing out in an unhelpful way for you. And then we move into the antidotes. But I want to make sure we really hammer this home because it's dangerous, okay? So point number 3 is that perfectionism is the perfect delay mechanism. And that might be why you're using it, right? Perfectionism is the perfect delay mechanism for perfectionists. Be careful. Perfectionism is really powerful, right? Because it helps you delay anything that could make you look imperfect. But here's the thing. The price you pay for toxic perfectionism is not worth the cost. Because here's why it's so handy for perfectionists to delay. Because the longer you delay, the longer you don't make a decision, the longer you don't take action, the longer you think you stay perfect. Just think about that for a moment. The longer you wait, and the longer you research and overthink and window shop about what might be the perfect career for you, the less you risk looking perfect. You've got no skin in the game. Nobody will know. Your perfect image is held up. You've got full controls behind the scene, right? What a perfect self-sabotage mechanism. Delay. So it goes. But let me ask you this. How is that actually working for you? And how much longer do you want to wait? Waiting in itself, with the accompanying overthinking and over-research, does not in itself produce any perfection or results. How many years have you already waited? Just think about that for a moment. If you're listening to the Career Change podcast, I bet you didn't just want to change careers yesterday. So just get really honest with yourself. How long have you already waited and hoped? Let me repeat. Toxic perfectionists rarely make their dream come true as they're still waiting for the perfect time or perfect idea or perfect business to somehow show up, ticking all the boxes, ready to marry, right? And even if you already have some candidates, you probably delay making a choice or you talk yourself out of it so you don't end up in an imperfect choice. Okay, you've got my point. Hello, if I'm inside of your head, then let me tell you what a bloody and frankly perfect waste of time that's happening there. And strangely enough, also really passive, which is weird because as a perfectionist, normally a control freak goes in with it. So my friend, let me help you get out there. I know how painful it is. I've been there. I used to spend a lot of time hanging out in that arena. Same thing with a lot of my clients. So let me tell you how to get out of there. I want that so much for you. So let's move into some really concrete antidote strategies. Let's talk antidote. So strategy or antidote number 1 is stop being a perfectionist and start being an optimalist. Stop being a toxic perfectionist. Start being an optimalist. I love languages, and the word optimal is derived from the Latin optimus, which means the best. Not perfect, but the best, and the best within the constraints of our individual realities and circumstances of what is available in the imperfect world that we live in, as opposed to insisting on perfection. You know, the toxic perfectionist is literally the opposite to the optimalist, because the toxic perfectionist kind of operates outside of constraints and outside of the reality in some kind of fake universe where constraints don't exist. And this is really important to emphasize and really think about. What kind of world and universe do you actually operate in when it comes to your career change if you are insistent on such perfection? The reality is, that's really important to you. Are you using an alternative reality where perfectionism is possible? Or would you like to actually start coming in to operate in the real imperfect world? Here's the thing, and what's so powerful about being an optimalist, choosing again and again to behave like an optimalist is that an optimalist embraces reality, as messy and bloody inconvenient and goalpost changing as it is. And an optimalist chooses the best option available out of the ones available, out of the ones that are available, not somehow somewhere in an alternative universe. Just imagine what's possible for you when you choose to approach your career change or business with that empowering mindset instead. What you are aiming for is just what's optimal as opposed to perfect. That optimalist mindset will help you get unstuck and move faster and give you an actual chance of your career change will actually happen. Forget about perfectionism, which totally dismisses and keeps you stuck and waiting, and focus instead on what is optimal, what's the best of what's available, and what's reality checked. That frees you up to take action now rather than waiting for the prince on the white horse or the princess on the white horse to turn up. And also, here's the real secret about a lot of this. You don't find your perfect career, your perfect business, your passion. You decide out of what's available and you create it, okay? You choose the best option for now, and then you adjust and improve along the way. It is work in progress we're talking about here. You need to get started. The magic happens in the action of working what you have versus never getting started because you're still waiting for perfection. So do you want to get going with what you already have and then improve on it as you go along and get the answers in the doing? Or do you want to wait for that fully fledged perfect thing to turn up? Right? Do you want to wait for the prince on the white horse? Or do you want to start dating the few available candidates and see what happens next? Right? Here's the thing. Learnings and insights and more opportunities, they come through other people and they come through you getting out of your head. You got to be in the arena versus be on the sideline hoping. That is so important to get into your head. Versus being behind the scenes, all passive, just hoping for things to happen. You need to get yourself in the game. A career transition, a successful business is all about work in progress. You are never done, whether it's a career or a business. It's a matter of starting and then involving and getting closer over time, one step at a time. That is why it's so important to get you out of those holding patterns, right? Also, at the same time, and this is so important, the difference between a reality-checked optimalist and a toxic perfectionist is that the optimalist also has a healthy sense of urgency. They know that the longer they delay, the less of a priority and the less of a reality their new transition will be. having a healthy sense of urgency, as a career changer, especially after 35, is key. Let me know if you actually want me to do an episode about having a healthy urgency. So just if you're on my newsletter, just reply back. Let me know, yes, Rikke, please do an episode about how to get healthy urgency. You can, sign up over at the careerchangepodcast.com. Let me know if you want me to do a podcast about healthy urgency. This is one of those things. You'll know this if you've applied to work with me over with your career change map, where I help you figure out what your best career change or business options are. You'll know that one of the questions I ask is, how much of a priority, urgency is this for you? I can't help people who don't have urgency. You must have that. So just remember that, okay? So just repeating, stop being a toxic perfectionist, start being an optimalist. Strategy antidote number 2 is to choose bite-sized action over perfect inaction. Choose bite-sized action over perfect inaction. So here's another way for you to figure out if you're suffering from toxic or unhelpful perfectionism when it comes to your career transition. Do you find yourself saying a lot or thinking a lot, well, if I cannot do X, Y, Z properly or my way or in a specific time frame or in this order with controlled perfection, then I might as well not do it at all? It's that kind of all or nothing perfectionism choice, right? All or nothing. And with perfectionists, therefore, that end up being nothing. Wonder why you find yourself in a holding pattern? Now, since any career transition, any successful career transition is made out of many, many, many small actions and many, many, many small decisions, let's focus on you doing that and the benefit of that. And that means that all you need to focus on at each stage of the career transition process is just to look at the bite-sized actions that you can take right now versus waiting for everything to be perfect before you can take action. And the way to get around that is choose bite-sized actions, not perfect in action. Choose bite-sized actions if you want momentum and progress. There is no one big action or no one big decision. It doesn't work like that. So focus on how can you make this more bite-sized to make it easier for yourself as well. Here's how that works. Here's what it looks like on a daily, weekly basis. Here are the questions that I've recommended hundreds of times that my clients, they use to get out of this perfect inaction and into bite-sized actions. Here are some really good questions to ask yourself. What decision can I make right now? Or what action can I take right now? Those are really powerful. Write them down. What decision can I make right now? Or what action can I take right now? Those are so, so powerful to help you identify what might be the bite-sized actions or the bite-sized decisions you can make and can take right now. A couple more there helpful as well is, what can I continue to do right now? Or what can I start doing right now? Or what can I stop doing right now? But the emphasis is on can. No matter how small, do it. Momentum is everything. Continually choose. This goes so well with what I said just before about continually choose being an optimist over a perfectionist. The same thing, an optimist would be like, well, what can I do right now? What can I do to move forward? So keep asking yourself, am I aiming for approximation or perfection, right? The best option within the constraints available, think bite-sized. Ask yourself, am I choosing to do something or nothing, right? Perfectionists always fall into this all or nothing trap. And because things aren't perfect, they default to nothing, right? Make this easier for yourself. Just look at what is a bite-sized action or decision that you can take and make right now. You'll feel so much better for it. Okay, now strategy number 3 is a bit of a hardcore one, but it works wonders. It is to aim for better than now, not for perfection. Aim for better than now, not for perfection. That's strategy number 3 or antidote number 3. Now, this is a strategy I roll out with clients who suffer from the most toxic and unhelpful version of perfectionism and for whom nothing but the prince or princess on the white horse will do. I have literally lost count of the amount of times I have suggested this to clients where I say to them, okay, all right, so you're stuck because of your perfectionism. What if initially to get started, what if all you aim for initially is just to choose and create a career or a job or business that is better than what you have now? So not perfect. It just needs to be better than what you have now at least to get started. Do you think that will get you unstuck? So forget about those crazy, impossible, high standard and that crazy, alternative universe you live in. Come right back here and let's get started. All we're aiming for is just to find something that's better than that scenario right now that you don't enjoy anyway. Because here's the thing, as a perfectionist, you're stuck. That means you got nothing to show for it. That's not perfect either, right? The situation you're in right now is not perfect either. So you're already not perfect. So you're risking that for something you don't even care about. So optimalism, again, bringing that back. What if we aim for, let's say, worst case scenario, that all we're just aiming for is something that is just better than what you have now. That's what you're looking for, a career, a business that's just better than what you have now. Because that will give you the chance to work your change muscle and improve from there. I call this the better than now attitude, the better than now attitude. And it's really the most powerful antidote to overcoming your prince or princess and the white horse tendency. Rather than waiting for Godot or waiting for the prince on the white horse to turn up, you kind of lower the bar slightly for what's acceptable. Did I really say that? Yes, you need to lower your bar. Now, we're not talking bottom scraping or just taking whatever shites come off there. We're just talking about lowering the bar for a short period of time to get you unstuck and into action again and again and again. What we're looking for is just something that's better than now. Choosing optimism over perfectionism. It's not a one-off choice. It's a choice you make again and again when the choice is more helpful. Okay, so this is for those of you who are really, really stuck. Think about wherever you're stuck right now. If you're really feeling stuck, it's toxic, nothing but the prince and the white horse will do. Just give yourself permission here. What if all you did right now was just looking to create something that's better than what you have right now? So at least you can allow yourself to have the experience of getting momentum, getting out of your head and into action and seeing results in the real world. It will feel so good. What could you do right now? What is one action you can take or one decision you can make, right? This is really for you. I really want you to think long and hard about this. I see so many people who are in a career or in a job and they know they need a change. They really dislike their boss or their career or the line of work, the culture, everything about it. They know they need a change. However, they keep telling themselves that unless they find that perfect career or passion or business idea first, there's no point in changing. Meanwhile, what's happening? This might be you too, working all hours of the day, being a doormat at work, being burned out, being the victim of corporate politics, being the good guy or the good girl who's like doing all the hard work. Everybody else takes the credit. You've got no time, no energy because you've got no system to follow, right? You feel like, you're just waiting for that thing to turn up. And meanwhile, you get more and more dispirited in your current line of work, maybe even physical health issues. We had this conversation before. And meanwhile, your current scenario is getting more and more unsustainable. Then you're also hoping, you're still waiting for the perfect conditions to turn up. COVID almost now seems like the warm-up ban. Then there was the war crisis, this and that. It's like there's always an excuse. You're still waiting, right? Meanwhile, what's happening? It's not an ideal scenario neither. You are kind of just wasting time in a space where you don't know that you shouldn't be anyway because you're waiting perfection to somehow come about. Give yourself permission. What if you switched into this about focusing on what's better than what you have now, just good enough for now? What are some key elements that you can start changing and then build up from there? This is something I do with a lot of my clients inside of my program, Your Career Change Map. What is it that you can change? What are the elements? You might also be risk averse, but what can we look at? Just creating something that's better than we have now, and then over time approximating it to get really, really good. So stop staying in that unsustainable scenario where you're grinding yourself away and just hoping for that prince and the white horse to turn up or for the world to somehow turn perfect, and instead look at, okay, what could be a career or maybe even just another job or a business that is better than what I have now that I could start creating rather than waiting for perfection to arrive. So let's look at what are options for you that are better than now. Identifying and knowing your best options, including those that are better than now, is one of the most powerful things that you can do to take control of your career transition now, rather than waiting and wasting your life away. So, let's recap. Remember, your career transition requires and rewards different kind of qualities from the ones you're likely using or being rewarded for in your work or career so far. Also, watch out for the prince on the white horse version of perfectionism. And remember that perfectionism is a perfect delay mechanism. So how do we get you out of there? Number 1, stop being a toxic perfectionist and start being an optimalist who operates within the imperfect world that we live in, which is not going to be more perfect anytime soon. So deal with the reality, my friend. Strategy antidote number 2, choose bite-sized actions over perfect inaction. Strategy number 3, aim for better than now, not for perfection. Approximate over time. So just think about what is a strategy you can pick right away to start freeing up energy and focus. Don't waste the best years of your life waiting for some kind of prince or princess on the white horse. Instead, get yourself into action and create what you want starting now. Okay? Listen, you've got this. Give it to yourself. You got my permission to do this. It will feel so much better, right? Because let's face it, where you are right now in that stuck scenario is not perfect neither. So things can only get better, my friend. Okay? All right, listen, I'll see you over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Let me know if you enjoyed this podcast, if you want more of what you want to hear about. Okay, now get out of there. Cheers.